And we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiskey Charlie, our war game chat that's monthly, although this week it's twice a week on YouTube. I'm your host, Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me are my co-hosts, everyone's favorite Gimp with the Limp, the TheGimpyGamer, Nate Rogers, which also has tonight the Gimpy tablet.
Yes, unfortunately, we are having some technical issues, so I had to run at the last minute and grab something else. Hopefully, you guys can hear and see me okay, though.
No, you sound good. You sound good. And we have the Wargaming Wizard from Oz, Kev Sharp from the Big Board. How's it going, Kev?
I'm good. I'm doing a lot better than he is, although, pixelated, you look great, Gimpy.
Oh, wow. But look at
Nice.
look at Kev just like kick back. He's like going like a, what is that, a penthouse centerfold model there? And we have our special guest tonight, Mitch Land, who is the designer of the Next War series. Welcome aboard, Mitch. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's good. Although I have to say, every time I hear your intro music, I have to break out the air guitar.
I know you were jamming along. I was liking that. That was cool. So this is our second show this week, which is kind of a very odd thing because normally we do once a month, maybe twice a month sometimes, but we're overachievers this week and we went with two shows. But this one was the planned show. The other one was kind of a special show. Not saying that you're not special, Mitch. We all know you're special. But we wanted to talk tonight about the Next War series, something I've been wanting to talk with Mitch about because I love the Next War series. I think it's fantastic. And on top of that, with everything going on in the world today, and a lot of people have been talking online about, hey, designers need to rethink the World War III games that the Soviets weren't as good as, what we're seeing today. Figured that would be a good topic too, because we're talking completely separate eras and manpower sizes, the whole nine yards. And that's something we can get into along with the challenges of designing near future conflicts, for a designer.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we've got 5 games in the series, and let's see a show of hands in the chat. How many people have any of the Next War games? I know we did see Fango. we got Fango. He says he has India, Pakistan. It's one of my shame. What is it? One of my
Shame still wrapped.
Shame still wrapped. I thought you were going to say shelf of shame, but
yeah.
Unwrap that thing and get digging into it, man. It's fun.
Roll some dice, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Well,
that's actually a great game. That loose nuke scenario is awesome.
Fabrizio.
Yeah, of course. Comrades.
Anything modern, he's going to be here. So we've got
exactly.
Fabrizio's got Next War Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean has them all.
Hey, Sean.
Strelnikov has Vietnam and Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Tony has all of them. Which I would expect.
Who cares what Tony has?
Yeah, has Tony played any of them though? That's the question. and has he played the rules right?
Oh, how many people don't play the rules right in that game?
Everyone
knows.
Yeah, I mean the basic game is something that you can get mostly right, I think, but where it really throws the curveballs, the advanced game, you really step it up quite a bit there.
Hey, it's not unusual to forget rules to your own games. Trust me.
Really? You have trouble with it too?
Occasionally. Well, if it's been a while since I've, place tested or played one of the games and I've been off doing whatever, I'll get back and I'll be play testing with. So I got a couple of guys. In fact, if I turn the camera around, you'd see Next Wars on the table behind me. We can get into that later, but I'll be moving something around. Like, is that right? Oh, wait, let me look in the rule. Oh yeah, good catch. No, I can't do that.
And that's when you actually call Ralph, right?
Right. Hey, Ralph, can we do this?
Like, this is stupid. Why can't we do this?
Right. Exactly. We should be able to.
Who thought this thing up?
Right. That asshole.
I'm wondering is that the actual name though? Are we going with Next War?
No, the next one in the series.
Yeah.
So do you have any?
No, I think that would be a good name to go with.
Yeah. Next War.
The next.
Just pick your own. It'll be a kit with a map of the globe.
There you go.
A bazillion counters. Just do whatever the hell you want.
So it'll be like Pacific War, but in modern.
Right, but with way less errata.
Oh, shots fired.
Oh no, I've been following that online. I'm like, oh my God. God bless Mark Herman. I mean,
yeah.
He wouldn't hear that tonight because he's at GMT East.
That's right.
If he does watch the replay, he's going to be like, oh, Mitch, I got to talk to you, pal.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Come here, son.
Oh, no. The way he's been handling that's been, as far as I can tell, pretty good. But
yeah,
it has. So I know, Nate, have you played any of the next war games?
Should be. I played Poland, and I think I've got Korea on my shelf, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But Poland's the one that I've got the most experience with.
And I know
Picked that up from
Kev.
my local game store to support my peoples.
Nice.
Good one.
Am
know,
I coming
Kev,
through?
you've been playing?
Because I'm getting a little lag on my end.
Yeah, you're coming through.
great.
Got you, Lima Charlie. So, Kev, you've got them all, right?
Got them all except for Taiwan. I almost had Taiwan, and then I heard there was going to be a second edition. So I thought, oh well, I'll just wait because Mitch is pushing these out, and here I am, like a decade later, still waiting. But
yeah, 2023 at the earliest.
Oh, at the earliest, really? See,
well, we're so I don't know how deep you went. We're wrapping up Poland right now.
right.
So, and Poland and Supplement 3 are coming together because Supplement 3 will serve as an update kit for Poland First Edition.
Yeah. So
you don't have to go buy the second edition Poland if you have First Edition. Just buy the Supplement 3.
Yeah.
Right. And there's other stuff in the Supplement 3, but it really is. It'll be a full upgrade kit for the First Edition Poland.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. What'll be really bad is if you don't have First Edition and you buy Second Edition and the supplement, you're going to get a bunch of extra double copies of stuff, right? Because it's the same stuff that's in the Second Edition, but whatever. You could sell it to somebody who didn't buy it. I don't know, right? Whatever.
Exactly. Sell the upgrade kit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And so Taiwan, you don't have Taiwan. You said you missed out holding out on the second edition. What's the forecast for Taiwan? You said 2023 at the
earliest? I mean, so we have to finish Poland. We're doing the final art now. Justin Martinez, who did the art for Vietnam, 1965, 1975, he's now dedicated to the next war project stuff. So he'll be finishing up that stuff, and he's working on it, as he can. So we're real close. We'll probably send it to the printer next month or so.
Okay. So, and then you said you have another one that's in the works now with these ones that are going to be printed, Taiwan, things like that. Will that affect the newest one that you've got, or they'll just go in the queue, and if they happen to run into each other along the way, it's not going to matter?
Yeah, it's whenever it gets ready. Right. So, I mean, it could be possible we send Taiwan and the next one at the same time or whatever happens. Right.
Yeah.
So the problem with Taiwan, I think, will be, so we updated the Chinese order battle in, I think that was Supplement 2 that we put that out. Right. So the next edition of Taiwan will obviously include that, but I need to go back and see what the ROC has done. The Taiwanese have done with their armed forces. So, what changes have they made? Are they still the 3 corps across the island? Are they still brigade level, or have they gone to some other organizational structure? Whatever, right? And then I know they're buying upgraded. We're selling them upgraded F-16s, and what other systems have they been buying and that kind of stuff, and just kind of trying to figure out what does it look like now as opposed to when, I don't even remember when Taiwan came out the first time.
So now with this series, you took it over. This was originally something Gene had done, right?
Correct. So with the original game was Crisis Korea 1995.
Yeah. And then you took it over from there, and then you just ran with it ever since.
Correct.
How much of a challenge was that first game, getting that one done, getting your head fully wrapped around the game, the system, and then designing it, and then coming out with the first game?
Right. So the first one obviously took the longest, right? So Gene had come up, so he was already in progress on it, right? It didn't have a name yet, but he had been working on an update for it anyway, because it was 1995, and I think Korea came out in, I want to say 2012. I'm sure somebody can fact check that. Immediately fact check that. But anyway, so he had been working on it, and I had just gotten into Crisis Korea 1995, and I was playing the crap out of it and pushing counters around, and I kept bombarding him, Gene, with all these kind of questions, and I'm like, this and this and this, and I'm like, if the sequence of play looked like this, and I think I have this idea for SOF, and oh, by the way, can you do this? And finally he emailed me privately. He said, "Hey Mitch, since you seem so interested, why don't you just do the next version?" Okay, that wasn't my intent, but sure, why not? I'll give it a try, right? So he kind of just turned the reins over, and and honestly, it probably was the better thing because he's busy running GMT, right? So did that, and the problem was getting everything. So Crisis Korea 1995 was an old game. Nothing was digital, right? There were no assets. Wait, there's the dog. Probably hear you guys. There was a map, right? So he and Mark Simonich had started on the map, and that was about it. So I had to rewrite all the rules, put them all into a Word doc, fix that, and move on, and do all that stuff. And then from there, it was okay. Well, what needs to be modernized and tweaked and changed and whatever. And there was, if anybody's ever played Crisis Korea 95, the whole advancing into a city or advancing into urban was way different in the original one than it is now. Right now, there's the whole clearing marker process, right?
Clearing ups.
So, right.
That's cool. And now, how was it? Had you designed anything prior to that?
Other than like one-off scenarios for things, like I've written a couple of Johnny Reb scenarios. I created a scenario for Empires in Arms that was never published. Right, the Johnny Reb scenarios were published. Johnny Reb 3, which is miniatures, Civil War, American Civil War miniatures. If you ever played that kind of stuff, but the Empires in Arms thing, it was an Italian campaign scenario that I built, but never really published. Right, but hadn't really done any design stuff.
And now you're the next modern war expert.
The next war expert, yes.
Kev?
No, I was so I'm curious about your thinking around how as you see forces evolve, what are you using for resources to keep up to date? That's got to be hard because some of it's confidential, some of it's secret, some of it's hearsay.
I mean, obviously, all of it's open source, right? It's all the stuff everybody else has access to. It's actually one of the major, I want to say complaint, but things I have to deal with is, so for instance, we're trying to get Poland out the door, right? Well, 2 days ago, Canada announces, hey, we're going to buy F-35s.
Right.
Well, shit. Right. Hey, Justin, is there room on the counter sheet for a couple F-35? Because Canada just said they're going to buy them. So
we need Canadian brown, right?
Well, exactly, right. So it's that kind of stuff. India just announced that they're going to buy a bunch of, which politically is very sensitive. They're going to buy 12 Su-30s. So, oops, But okay, well, how does that translate? Do we need to worry about that now? Can we worry about that later? That kind of thing, right? But that's one of the challenges with modern next war games, not next war, but anything that's kind of near future is, well, shit's changing all the time, right? I mean, we're buying new stuff. Everybody else is buying new stuff. They're always making changes and trying to keep that up to date. That's why, I came up with the idea of the supplements is, well, for minor things. So that, like the Chinese OOB, that was huge. That was big. So that went into the supplement, but so-and-so bought, so supplement 3, India again bought Russian S-300s. So we're going to include some counters in supplement 3 for that, and some rules around how does that work within the game, right? So things like that are just it's a constant, ever changing landscape, and the conceit we have is it's really a next war game's 5 to 10 years in the future. It's not right now necessarily, right? It's a little bit in the future. But I'm not gonna predict, hey, we've got laser weapons. Those are not operational yet, and they're probably not operational for another
hover tanks and mechs,
right?
and things like that.
That'd be cool, but no. Right? I mean, we have hovercraft, we have connectors, right? The Marines have the connectors.
Yeah.
But that's all abstracted in the next war. But
sure,
that kind of stuff.
Well, so they do have some stuff that we haven't seen that people would think is sci-fi. Because I remember when I was still in, they were talking about the stealth suits, and it was basically a set of camis that had screens. They were built out of screens, and they had cameras on them. So whatever was behind you was projected on front of you, and vice versa. So you could effectively see through the person. And they were talking about this stuff while I was in. This was over a decade ago. So I could only imagine that they would actually have something like that in practice now. So I don't think it's too far to say that, hey, we got some laser weapons, we got some plasma grenades, maybe. And besides, anything with the Marines,
I think
they're
railguns
going to kick
would be.
ass.
I think railguns.
We
would
have
be a good one.
railguns. We were going to mount them on.
Yeah.
I think we're going to mount them on the DDG 1000 series, right? I think the Navy said, nope, timeout. We're not doing that. But they were testing them. They had them working. But
that would have been so cool.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem was power generation to get
right.
them actually useful.
We couldn't use solar for that, though. I mean,
yes.
Get Musk on it.
Because the Defense Department's all about being green for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you can actually buy one of those. They have man-portable rail guns, and it's 3D printed. I saw a video on it the other day. Big rifle, a lot of it was 3D printed, uses magnets and all that, but it could actually fire a metal round. You pull the trigger, it's absolutely silent. Now, of course, the round isn't going fast. It'll penetrate like a cardboard target. And if you are really close to someone, you probably hurt them because it's about an inch slug.
Right.
But if you can get something like that, spending a few $1,000s as a civilian, then I would imagine they would have something much better behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, but that brings up one of the reasons why I know the Navy canceled is your railguns are great, but all they do is throw a kinetic round. It has to actually hit the target to do anything, right? And so now you have an aiming problem.
Yeah, no area effect.
Right, exactly. If you don't hit the target, you missed, literally. Right? So that's one of the reasons they kind of said, maybe not.
Well, it reminds me of Objective Moscow with the space drop for the Marines, right? I don't know if you guys know that game, but the old SPI game. So there was a advanced optional rule that the US had the ability to basically halo in a division or whatever it was into Eastern Europe to go take out the Ruskies, right? So that was supposed to be an optional rule.
Jump troops. Who doesn't want jump troops?
Who
doesn't want
stormtroopers?
Right.
Yeah.
Shoulder-mounted nuke launchers.
Well, so what are you going to do with the Marines? I mean, the Marines are basically now gutted, right?
Yeah.
No ships, no tanks.
So Supplement 3 has rules for, the Marines got rid of all their armor and all their bridging assets. So none of that anymore. So you're just basically not an infantry.
No amphib craft either.
Well, right. Apparently.
Might not be Ospreys pretty soon.
Why are you having Marines? But anyway.
Exactly.
But I am including rules for the Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations, EABO. It's the littoral regiments, right? Who the whole concept is, you use something, presumably some kind of hovercraft, whatever, to drop a platoon of Marines and an anti-ship missile launcher somewhere. And they supposedly provide anti-access or A2AD, right? We'll see, but you can experiment with it. So
that's cool. It's cool to have that there. Yeah.
Right.
Now, how do you handle supply, or do you not even worry about that?
For the EABO dudes? Yeah, so you have to have an AMF. So in the next war, speaking of next war series, right, you have to have an AMF either in the C zone or next to it. So they're presumably using those connectors to keep them supplied or whatever.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Below the level of the game, right? So if you can manage to drive the AMF off, you have to pick up the counter. Either they're destroyed in place or whatever.
Yeah, they swim home.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Marines are such good swimmers.
Yeah, get on the friggin' Zodiacs and let's beat feet out of Dodge. At that point.
I think there's a question there from Mitch.
What's that?
What's his background? Was he?
What's your background? Oh, there it is, right there.
Oh yeah. So yes, I spent 4 years in the Navy and then 14 in the Army. And ended up deploying to Iraq for a little while. So
that's why he doesn't like the Marines.
Yeah, well,
Jealous twice.
What'd you do in the Army?
All the good jokes. Engineering, bridge engineering, actually. So when we got to Iraq, we actually replaced one of the Marine bridging units that was there, which was kind of interesting. So,
which time were you in Iraq? Like early 90s or
0405? Yeah, 0405.
Okay, you were there when I was
Freedom 2.5.
Enduring Freedom
was right because it wasn't 2 and it wasn't 3. We were like sandwiched in between.
So where were you stationed?
On Nazaria, Talil
Okay.
Air Base down south. By a little. I guess that's west of Basra.
Yes. Okay. So you were there in 04 and 05 then, you're
Yep.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay. I was north of you at the same time frame. I was
Okay.
up in Fallujah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the company
Yeah, I was-
the bridging company that relieved us went to Fallujah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I was doing the gun truck missions between Fallujah and Ramadi, and then from Fallujah
good
to
Lord.
Baghdad occasionally.
Right.
Yeah. Why do you think I walk with a cane now? They
Yep.
found my ass the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was actually there in Nazaria, but I was there in 03 when we first
Okay.
pushed across.
Yeah,
So I was there for
the big ziggurat outside the base, and
Mhm.
supposedly, Abraham's house
Hmm.
is outside the base, like the Abraham, the biblical Abraham.
Right.
Yeah, we
That's the
had all
marketing
the same
skill.
orders. Don't shoot the mosque and don't shoot it there. God, that drove me nuts. All the towers they would have with little speakers on them. You know what I'm talking about? And they would
Mhm.
blast them out to pray. We never shot at the speakers. I swear, we never
Mm-mm.
took those things out. God, I hated it. Drove
And
me
you're
nuts.
saying it's the house that Abraham was at. I just immediately went back to New Jersey, where I'm originally from, and said, does it have a placard out front that says Abraham slept here, like they did with Washington everywhere? I mean, it's just
I'm sure
it's like,
probably did somewhere.
it's like, damn, that Washington got around, man.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
You
it's
gotta-
all marketing, right? Because it's supposedly the land of Ur,
Hmm.
whatever. And well, it's the biggest house in the area, so clearly it must have been Abraham's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was a rich
Sold.
guy, right?
I didn't have to pay to tour it, so whatever.
Right.
Nice.
Wow.
So Nick is saying, I'm just starting to get interested in war games. I love history and these stories seem right up my alley. Need to find a good starting point. I will say that
Not next war.
Next War is not it.
Yeah.
Well,
That would
I mean,
be a
to-
next step.
yeah. To be fair, the standard game isn't that.
The standard game's not bad. No,
Right.
no. But I mean, I would say starting out, we could have a whole time. We should do that one night, do
Yeah.
a thing on starting games. But,
Yeah.
like cells, games like that, those
Yeah.
are pretty interesting, simple games that you can, or straightforward. I don't want to say
Right.
simple, but straightforward games that you can jump into and
Right.
not have a lot of heartache getting into it.
Simple
best thing to
combat.
do is,
I mean, standard combat series.
yes, exactly. SCS, that definitely is pretty straightforward too.
Yeah.
And you can get into those, and best thing to do, Nick, would be to get with someone who plays and have them show you to ease your, learning curve by answering your questions immediately, things like that. But welcome to the fold of Wargamers.
Yeah, it helps if you come in and you have some knowledge of things like zones of control and supply lines and
Right. Well, not even that. So I, it's going to sound weird. My wife and I have been going to the same restaurant every Friday night for like a year and a half, whatever. We've gotten the same waiter every time, gotten to be friends with him, right? I've been to his house to play games, more Eurogamer. And he's like, oh, let's play a war game. Okay. I pulled out a war game. I'm like, all right, so put your brigade here. What's a brigade? Okay. We're going to have to start very, very simple, right? On it.
Right.
But I mean, I guess that's my point is if you don't have that base grounding understanding of what's a squad, squad, platoon, company, battalion, brigade / regiment / you know what I mean? If you don't have that basic understanding of how armies are put together, war games are like this weird
language,
very technical language that you just, and as even as a designer, sometimes I look at that, I go like, yeah, we don't really explain that too much. We expect you, the player, to know some of that stuff.
No, yeah.
Right.
It can be a challenge.
And it's not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the biggest critiques I give some rule books is that the designer, and I'm not saying you specifically, just speaking in generalities, the designer writes it, but they're writing it because they understand it, and they have to write it in such a way that a person who has no knowledge could read it and play the game. Right. And with some of these games, that's not exactly the easiest thing to do because so many of the concepts are
very
deep.
Right.
Yeah, you would have to expand the rule book tremendously if you were really going to hash out all that stuff.
You're looking at books this thick, right?
Yeah.
That's a rule book. Yeah.
Okay, you start with a soldier, and this is the stuff, and, and you get a couple of them together.
That's part of the problem, right? Is that if you put everything into the rule book that somebody who is brand new to war, and not picking on brand new war games, right? But that they would need to understand. Yeah, you would end up with a novel-sized rule book. You really would, and then nobody would ever play it because there's no way you could slog through that and figure it out, right?
People complain about war games, saying, "I don't know if I want to play a war game. The rule books are like 20 pages, and then you come out with a 350-page novel. How to start in war games?"
Right. So yeah, it's a tough thing, and everybody reads something different, right? So I might write a rule. I have written rules perfectly clear to me, perfectly clear to Ralph. Kev comes on. I'm going to pick on Kev. Kev comes along and reads that rules. I don't know what the hell you're saying. What does this rule mean? I'm like, it's clear. It says it right here. Right. But that's not how he's processing it.
Yeah.
And so then you have to go in and you tweak the language a little bit and whatever. And the problem is if you tweak it too far, now the guy who understood it originally, what the hell are you saying? Right.
Yeah.
So
And then
I've had that problem myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do. Yeah.
When I read them, I tend to read them literally. So if you say do X, I'm thinking do X, even though the designer might not mean specifically what he's saying, but I'm reading it word for word. Okay, this is what he's saying to do, so I'm gonna do this, and then sometimes I'm just a dumbass and misread anything, or I forget to turn the page. I did that one time with a rule and completely botched it and realized that I read the first paragraph and did not turn the page and read the second paragraph that finished out the rest of it.
That's a goofy pet peeve of mine, is when you've got a rule that carries over a page or starts at the very bottom of a page and it's 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And you flip over. It's just a fun thing to me.
So funny is that so Charlie Killer used to lay out the rules, and he would be very, very careful to. So if 4.2, went 3/4 down the page, and then 4.3 was going to have 3 or 4 sentences, he'd just bump it down. Right to start on the next page, and then he'd put something in there. So design note, or hey, I need a picture right here. He's very good about that.
That's smart. That's really smart because
that's a good designer or a good layout artist.
Layout guy. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right.
We got another one here. Randy saying he's interested in knowing more about some comments that Mitch has previously made about expanding the naval rules.
Yeah, Randy's a big poster on the Next War Discord, and he's a big Next War guy. Thank you, Randy. So I don't know that I'll expand the rules in the system itself. One of the things I've been toying with off and on is, I call it Next War Naval just right now, just as a shorthand, but it's a more, so think Fleet Series stuff, VG old Victory Games Fleet Series, that level of detail naval game. To either, primarily standalone, right? Just play if it's we'll pick on the Spratlys because everybody wants to talk about Spratley, right? So maybe it's a naval game that's covering the Spratlys. Great. You can play it standalone, but then provide some rules maybe that says, hey, you know what? Throw out all the naval rules in Next War and plug this in, and here's how they work together. Right. But that's back burner, over there.
Don't call
Just
it
out of
Next War
curiosity.
Naval. Just call it Next Wave.
Yeah.
How much of a difficulty do you find like modern naval rules, considering World War II, you had to see your target, right? You'd fly above it, you tip the plane down, you drop the bomb, hope for the best, pull the trigger, shoot the machine guns. Now you can be 200 miles out and fire a missile. You don't have to be anywhere near your target. Most often the ships aren't even in the same ballpark. They don't worry about guns anymore. So how does that play in, and the level of abstraction you have to get to?
And that's part of the problem. Well, part of the issue that you have to overcome is, missile combat is different.
Yeah.
And compounded by the only real world example we have is the Falklands. Right, which was first gen Exocet, which is fine. It's a good, great thing. Great. The British didn't think so because it sank some of their ships, but that's really the only thing. Nobody's ever really fired them in ship to ship combat. So it's a lot of extrapolation. So what you end up with, things are on the spectrum of something like South China Sea, or Breaking the Chains.
Same thing.
Right.
Breaking the chains.
I like to call it breaking the wrists, because it's a lot of dice rolling, right?
Yep.
Or what's the Kev? I think you were playing it.
Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean, right?
Yeah.
Which is very, very, very abstract, right?
Very abstract, right?
Yes.
You don't actually move any units, right?
Yeah.
You're just
Not really.
I'm shooting from 5 hexes away, right?
Right,
So,
right.
which blew my mind at first because I was like, okay, I got to move these guys over here, but then how do they get back? Well, no, Kevin, you actually don't move anything, right? They're all just firing missiles at each other.
Well, I had to move because I had no range.
Yeah,
so I had to run right up the middle.
You had those dinky Iraqi.
I was throwing rocks at you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that spectrum, and then on the other end, you have Harpoon 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is very complex. I mean, it's all right. I need to figure out what the air induction layer is going to, or an air, whatever they call it, the air induction something, whatever is it's increasing my radar range to you because the weather, the temperature is this, and the whatever, and my radar is 20% more effective. So normally I could see you at 280 nautical miles. Now I can see you at 258, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I roll dice. Oh, I detected you. Okay, but I don't have a good firing solution. So turn after turn, you're rolling to see if your firing solution is getting good. Oh, I've got a good firing. I'm going to launch a missile. Oh, but in the meantime, just detected that you launched a missile and it's incoming. And oh shit, where's my phalanx? Oh, where's my, you know what I mean? So it's super complex, which I like. But that's the difference you have, and that there's not a lot in between, right? There's not a lot new that's in the whole Victory Games fleet kind of a little bit crunchy, but not. You have to know the kind of directory you're using to fire the missile, right?
Right. One of those challenges is the time scale and the hex scale, right? So I think breaking the chains problem was you had to fly over the hex,
right,
to do the missile.
It had a scale problem,
which is kind of a problem, right? So whereas the IOR, Indian Ocean region, went the other way, where nobody moves, and it's super abstract. It was kind of okay. How do I get to roll an 11 and then I kill something? Right. So well, it's a hard model to capture, particularly with no historical data, right?
All right. I mean, all you have is the publicly available test data, right?
Yeah.
Oh, our missiles hit 95% of the time.
Sure, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under perfect test conditions.
Yeah. Well, as we look at the Ukraine, right? We're seeing that some of these test conditions and this performance data is not exactly accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're fighting a really, really dumb battle. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're fighting to win in a way that they could be fighting to win, because they're making so many mistakes that you make in urban combat, like driving tanks right up the main thoroughfare when you've got buildings on each side that one guy with a little AT-4 or whatever missile system lean out, pop it through the top of the tank and take out the crew inside. I mean, this was stuff that we didn't do in Iraq because it was dumb. We were driving Humvees back then. They know this. I don't get why they do a lot of the things that they're doing.
Because you have to remember, this is a special military operation.
That's right. It's not war.
It's not war. It's different. That's the spin, and that's why they're not. I mean, they're making so many operational mistakes that are so obvious. Why are you driving tanks down a road? You've got no infantry, you got no air cover. You got to have them all together to have effective armor.
And tactically, operationally, strategically, just
and everyone's like
interesting decisions.
Saint Javelin, and they're really kissing ass on the Javelin. Javelin's a great weapon system.
Right.
I'd like to see how it's employed against properly operated military.
Right.
Yeah, completely different story altogether. Which is again where for you designing these next war games is a challenge, because like you were saying, I had asked you the one time, you said, okay, well maybe you can, change the effectiveness rating to to try to reflect some of the things that are going on, like we see in Ukraine. Something like that might be a way to try to handle that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my first response is it's still too early. It's absolutely 6 weeks. Right. I mean, clearly they did something wrong. Right. The question is that politically motivated? Is it actually doctrinally motivated? Is it something else? So we don't know. Right. It was a bourbon and an amaretto, Tony, a godmother. Now I'm on to Oban.
Nice.
So in next war terms, Ralph and I discussed this. What you're seeing in Ukraine is an extended buildup scenario. right? Because everybody knew it was
Mhm.
coming. I mean, the Russians built up a bunch of troops. We were funneling stuff in there, just not maybe at the same rate. The Ukrainians knew something was happening, right? Obviously. So you're seeing an extended buildup scenario, and the guy playing the Russians has never played a war game in his life, right?
True.
And the Ukrainian is a guy who's played every war game, right? And so I think you're seeing a lot of that. I think part of the problem with drawing any kind of conclusions is that we're seeing a lot at the tactical level, right? So all the videos that you see, all the hyped up media stuff, it's all at the tactical level. It's hey, look, that missile destroyed that tank. Well, sure, but you don't know what else happened.
Yeah.
Right? Looks good. And granted, I'm not saying, I'm gonna trust the Western media a little bit more than the Russian media, just a little bit though. But you're seeing it at a very, very, very low level. If you're starting to look at the big picture, and I can't remember the site that's Institute for the Study of War,
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. They put out those maps every day. Hey, here's the Russian advance, and here's what they did or didn't do or whatever. You see a little bit of a different picture operationally and strategically, because you'll notice, the Russians didn't make a whole lot of headway against Kiev, and I'm probably going to butcher the Cherniv, whatever that city is, right? But if you look down south, where they came out of Crimea and out of those two republics, they have a nice solid little pink strip.
Yeah.
Right. So clearly those guys were either, multiple things, either better led, more motivated, had a better plan, weren't facing as stiff resistance. Maybe the Ukrainians are a little lighter there. I don't know. Right. But clearly they've done better there than they have up north. And so then the question I keep asking myself is, what's the Russian end game? Well, the Russian end game is to own Crimea and have a land bridge to Crimea.
But then they already own Crimea from like 2014, or did they not take it then?
Owned without international approval, right? So if at the negotiating table they get agreement that they're going to settle the Crimea question, right, as part of this whole special military operation, that's a win.
Yeah.
Right. Because possession is 9/10 of the law. They're like, well, we're not giving it up, so you need to give it to us or whatever. Right. But they want that land bridge as well. Guess what else is in that Donbass region? Huge amounts of natural gas. Right. And other minerals and things like that. So if they can get Ukraine to say, okay, we'll table the Crimea talks, and we'll table the Donetsk and what's the other one? The Luhansk.
Luhansk.
Yeah, I always know them by the little acronyms, right? We'll table those discussions for later. For right now, they'll just be semi-autonomous whatevers until we finally settle the discussion. You withdraw back to the pre-war borders, blah, 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 blah. From Russia's standpoint, from my opinion, that's a win.
That's a win.
Because now it's on the international stage where they have to discuss it and they have to settle it, right? Presumably peaceably. But if they don't get their way, maybe they just try it again. But who knows? Right?
Do you think that might be why they're using junk and like conscript level troops? Like they're using older tanks, older equipment. Like they're not concerned with waging a full out war. They just want to push it far enough that they can make the point.
Maybe I hear that. I'm not so sure that's true. You know what I mean? Yes. I mean, a lot of their old shit is showing up, but some of that's the Russian way. They use everything they own.
Got it. We're throwing it in there.
Exactly. Never throw anything away. Now, I think they have serious issues, right? Corruption, a lot of those pictures of the, what are they, BTRs or whatever, with the tires blowing. Well, that's rot. That's because nobody maintained that stuff, right? Somebody's been siphoning all that money. And let's be honest, they're a conscript army. They just did the new call up there. So the next draft year got called up. I was listening to a podcast, by the way, the Brutecast from the Krulak Center. Excellent podcast. We're talking about some of this stuff. So they were talking, they just changed the law. The conscript process used to be they just send it in the mail. Just like, our draft letters, send it in the mail. If you happen to not be there, you could claim you didn't get it because it was just regular mail. Well, they just recently changed the law. It's now coming by registered mail. Somebody has to sign for it. They know you got it, right? You will be showing up at the draft center. So they're making those countries. But at the end of the day, they're still a conscript army. They're not a professional force. So now they're talking about, well, are they going to do Nate, Mo, stop loss, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, your conscript time is up. You don't get to go home.
Yeah.
We're currently engaged in a special military operation. You don't get to go home, right? And those guys.
But that is a tremendous hit to morale. I mean,
yeah.
that hit our
Absolutely.
morale.
Yeah.
I had guys that deployed with me to Iraq who got stop lost. I mean, one guy was weeks away.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. I mean, he was hot. His only protest was he didn't cut his hair the whole time we were deployed. Like once his end date hit, he's like, I'm not cutting my hair. Then kiss my ass. What are they going to do? Send me home?
Dude, that was the best part. You went over to the little trailer and you went in, and a little Pakistani guy cut your hair, and then he gave you a little head massage,
Oh man, they cut hair better than any American barber, and it takes them 10 seconds. They're like zap, 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 done, perfect, high and tight.
Right.
They were excellent at it. But no, you're right though. The morale that's a killer, and their troops already don't seem like they want to be there. Right. They don't want to be doing this.
Yeah, I mean,
so morale's bad, equipment's bad. World support is against them.
Right. If the news reports were right, it's like they weren't even told that they were actually going to go into Ukraine. Like, oh, we're just going to make a show of force. We're just doing maneuvers. We're just doing this. We're not actually going to invade. And all of a sudden, hey, we're going. Yeah. Whoa, what do you mean? Right. So, and again, I think part of the problem is, we've always had the Russians as this big bugaboo. And Fabrizio is on here. Maybe he can chime in. But I think the Soviets were a little different. I mean, they were still a conscript army, but I think discipline was a little bit heavier, right? I mean, they did stuff. And their NCO corps at that time, I think, was a little bit more professional than it is now. Right. Now I think it's all just.
And would they have been more motivated as well? Because that would have been
the Soviets.
Yeah, part of the.
I think so.
Part of the story there, because you look at the hypothetical Third World Wars, and there are certain periods where we think the Russians would have won, and certain periods where we know they wouldn't have won potentially, and then you have everyone arguing about, well, no, it never would have happened. We would have eaten their lunch or not eaten their lunch.
I think it depends on the year, right? But yeah, and the NCO corps they had. So the NCO guys, I think, they weren't conscripts. They were the long term. They were the lifers, and that's where all of their knowledge. So a lot of their knowledge is more in the officer corps than it was a lot of our knowledge.
But you could say that about every military, though. Our military runs on the NCOs.
They all do, but
so
the Soviets, it was a lot different.
Yeah, their knowledge is mostly officer, but at least their NCOs weren't like ours, right? They weren't that professional, but they were better than the conscripts, right? Who just came in for a year or two or whatever it was, and
it reminds me of the American
conscripts
Army.
In line.
Right.
It reminds me of the American Army in Vietnam. To a certain extent, you've got the guys that are lifers, and you've got the guys who have just been conscripted in and
wanted to do their year and go home.
They're drafted in, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
well, I mean, that's one of the major reasons we went to a volunteer army, right?
Yeah. They haven't had the experience. I mean, America's been in one conflict or another almost constantly since ever, and that's kept our blade honed this entire time. You can't beat experience. Doesn't matter how much training you do, experience will always win out. And the Russian military hasn't really had that.
Right.
So when they don't have that, we're seeing the results of actual experience right now.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about that. So they put on these big exercises called ZAPAD, whatever, right? ZAPAD East, ZAPAD West, ZAPAD 2020, whatever it's called. The problem is it's completely scripted from top to bottom. All of the supplies are there. They know where they're getting them from, right? And then it's okay. Day 1, 0900. You're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. 0 or 1000. You're going to do this, and you're going to change, and you're going to do this. You know what I mean? So it's like boom, 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 boom. Okay, yeah, we can do that. You get into a real war. That's not how we practice, right? Practice like you fight, right?
Yeah. Well, that was always the Soviet way, though. They were very structured.
Rigid.
In rigid, very rigid structure.
Right.
You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this.
Right.
where it was a threat was the echelon, the waves. They just keep throwing stuff
Correct.
at you, and where
I mean, they
you're
would just burn
down,
them out, right?
Yeah,
Wave
and
one, whatever.
you burn
Wave
off
two,
all your ammo trying to take them out, and you
they
do
didn't
take
care,
them out.
right?
But
Which
then
you're
wore
kind
out.
of seeing here,
Yes.
right? That same doctrinal thought is here, but they don't have the same. They're not executing well, right?
No.
So, and I think part of it is, I don't know if spoiled is the right word. We're spoiled because we know how we operate. We know how we do war, and they're not doing that. And part of their doctrine is to do it kind of like that, and they didn't. I mean, where was the massive missile strikes to knock out the integrated air defense?
Yeah.
Right?
They were launching the ground attack as they were doing their air, and they were hitting with the missiles.
Right.
It's like, no, you prep your target and then you move in with the ground force.
Exactly. And they didn't do any of that. They did not prepare the battlefield. Now, was that hubris? Was that so the one article I saw was, I guess the two top, I want to call them KGB, but they're not KGB anymore. The two top spy guys got arrested
FSB or whatever.
Yeah, they were supposed to be
FSB,
bribing the Ukrainians and
I saw
apparently
that.
pocketed all the money instead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's true. Who knows, right? But
Sounds like a very Russian thing to do.
right. Well, so you put that in context with, hey, we're gonna put a bunch of really high value, highly trained VDV paratroopers into Hostomel to decapitate the government because they're just going to roll over. Well, now that plan makes sense if you think that you've already bribed everybody for them to roll over.
Right.
When they don't roll over, then it looks like a suicide mission.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are the Russians doing? Well, they had bad intel. Right.
Yeah.
Which Hostomel apparently was liberated today.
Well, the other
no
interesting thing is, there's all the talk of Kyiv and all the, they're pulling back. Well, they were attacking, they were pulling back, and Mariupol and all the location in the east. The Russians keep just kind of surrounding that whole area, and the Western media is not really talking about the troops that are there, the Ukrainian troops that are there. They're tied up.
Right.
They're only talking about Kyiv, and it's like, is Kyiv actually even a concern for the Russians? Could it be just a sideshow? Hey, we're going to, harass you over here. Our main thing is to grind down your military over here. And the media is just, of course, Western media is, Ukraine's doing nothing wrong. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I want to hear both sides. I want to hear the facts of what's going on.
That was the funniest meme I saw is Putin getting the humanitarian Nobel Prize for ending COVID. Because you never see any COVID news anymore.
This is true.
Ukraine.
That's when you'll know that the war is kind of winding down, because they'll start going, there's another new variant.
Right, exactly. So,
the Kiev variant.
You're right. But I mean, and that's the problem. It's been 6 weeks. We don't know. We don't have access to all that stuff. I mean, even the guys who know, well, they probably can't say.
Sure.
Right. But they're guessing, and they're as much in the dark. Well, they're probably less in the dark than we are, but they don't have any deeper insight into the actual strategic plans and what they were planning. I mean, if you ask me, it does look like they thought they were going to decapitate the government, that they were just going to be able to roll in and say, hey, we won. And that didn't work out for whatever reason, right? Maybe they just underestimated and overestimated their ability. I don't know, right? But it looks like that failed. But I think you're right, Nate. I think that was always just Mo, maybe you said it, but I think that was always just not a distraction necessarily, but that was a secondary
sideshow, or secondary target.
The primary, from my perspective, the primary objective is Crimea.
Yep,
and the land bridge to it.
Yeah, right? And grinding down whatever military forces Ukraine has, so that way they're really, really under strength after, because they've got a lot of militia and stuff like that. There's stuff that I've seen online where Ukrainians are using like schools and things like that as a base, and then they're bailing out, leaving their uniforms behind, and they're running out in civilian clothes to disperse from there as the Russians advance and stuff like that. So there's a lot of information that's going on. And if anybody does, whether it's you or anyone else does a Ukrainian war game in the future, it should be the Ukraine war, Ukraine, Russia, whatever it is. It should be subtitled the TikTok war, because did you ever think that we would be getting most of our information from
TikTok? Yeah.
It's crazy.
So not only are we getting most of our information, they're using it for targeting information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's Ukrainians parked in that mall. Let's missile them all.
Yep.
Holy shit. What? Right? Hey, we detected a lot of foreign cell phone signals from this area. Let's missile that area. right? I mean,
everyone carries a cell phone now.
Right, but it's now it's a
day and age of instant information.
Right, it's a whole new ballpark.
Battlefield.
You got to really be careful about all that stuff, right?
Right.
I mean,
comms discipline is
right. I mean, that's why Google.
That's what I did.
Turned off location services.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did comms, right? And we had equipment to help mask our signals, but I mean, we were doing, conflict against that wreckage. We didn't have to worry about them triangulating our signals all that much. But even we took precautions for ComSec.
Nice, Mo. Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, so that's the other thing you got to think about. The Russians were using, handheld radios.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians would intercept it and say, hey, we know what they're doing, so we're just going to hit them here, right? Which is tactical, but holy cow, it's just.
But how much of this is Maskarovka with the Russians? That's the thing.
I think, part of me wants to say it's so widespread that that's almost too, like, they're not that smart.
No, but I mean, parts of it could be, and that's where you have to weed through.
And that's
the chaff,
where, right. So which part was, and that's why I'm saying, I really think they thought they were going to just decapitate the government and be done.
Right.
But it was always.
So you think that's why it could be so sloppy? Because their initial plan went to crap, and it didn't pan out, and now they're trying to pick up the pieces of what's left and put together the best option they have from what remains.
They didn't have a plan B, unfortunately.
Well, I think it really does come down to those. I think it is most plausible is the two FSB guys that had billions of dollars that they were pocketing and spreading around to their own forces rather than actually paying off the Ukrainians ahead of time. I think that is so plausible because it really fits to everything that's played out so far.
I mean, it fits modern day Russia. I mean, they're corrupt as all get out. And don't get me wrong,
Ukraine.
There's corruption everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I think in particular, we know Russia's an oligarchy. It's full of corruption, right? I absolutely believe they siphoned it. They might have bribed a few Ukrainians just to make it look good.
Yeah.
Right. But they're living in dakas in, the Black Sea or maybe in Italy or whatever, the freaking super yachts that everybody's trying to impound.
Oh, when this is over, someone's going to track those guys down.
Oh yeah.
They're going to end up with a couple of holes in the back of their head.
Well, they already arrested two of them. I mean, they're in little.
I was just going to say, yeah.
They're in little pieces down a drain right now.
Right. Well, so that was the Ukraine. You talking about the Ukrainians?
Oh, I was talking.
No, I mean the Russians.
Oh, so the Ukrainian Zelensky just had two top security guys arrested generals today. Yeah. Right. So he's like, we're not dealing with that shit.
And that's the thing at this point when stuff like that happens. Is it truly corruption? Or is it personal vendetta? Or is it?
It's hard to say, right?
I mean, on both sides. On both sides. Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Because neither side is what I would say crystal clear. Good guy. So it's interesting stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack and a lot of things to discuss going in the future. But you were talking about Fabrizio before. He did ask this question for naval warfare. I think the biggest question mark is the lethality of anti-ship missiles. Opinions wildly different.
Right. Well, and the other side of that coin is, modern ships are not super resilient. Shrapnel damage will take out your radar. And once you take out a ship's radar, you might as well not have a ship.
It's blind.
What the hell are you going to do with it? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, a lot of it is that, but, so I think that's why, speaking of that particular subject, that's why the Russian missiles, have you seen the tubes on some of those things? I mean, they're like fucking 6 feet across, and a harpoon, you can wrap your arms around,
Yeah.
The warheads are tiny. So, different philosophies, but I don't think the Exocet was very big and it did damage.
Yeah. I love Randy Strader's comment. We're going to need a Ukrainian farmer towing off a Russian armor counter.
I like it. Supplement 4.
Yeah, supplement 4. So tying this back to wargaming for the non-military, non-political, geo geniuses that you three are.
The answer is yes.
Just for the regular wargamer guy like me, how is this going to affect the effectiveness ratings in the Soviet army?
I've
games going forward.
Russian army.
Yeah, I've actually done
Russian army. Sorry, or
the Soviet army.
Or your new titles.
That was my favorite thing when Kev was doing a replay. He kept calling them Soviets. It was so fucking fun.
Oh well, they're Soviets, Russians.
To be fair, I make the same mistake, so I don't.
I do too.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm going to move the Russian to, because I mean, we're all children of the Cold War.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? So bad. Yeah. Oh,
Well, not this one.
Well, you were a
whatever.
child in the
no,
Cold
shut
War.
up,
baby.
Gimpy.
I was in diapers during Cold War, so I was alive then.
There you go. So yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that, and Ralph and I have had actually a lot of conversations about it. So the thing is, because it's next war, right, is presumably they'll learn their lessons. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of rating changes necessarily. Maybe some. I'm more concerned with the precision guided, so more of a supply logistics thing, right?
Right.
That clearly is an issue.
Yep.
And in most of the next war games, so India, Pakistan in particular, if you've ever played it, you know that they are tied to a very tight leash, right? Because they just don't have the logistic tail to figure that out. And like Gimpy was pointing out, we've done it for 20 years. We know how that stuff works, right? If we want to put a division in Siberia and supply it for a year, we can do that. We know how to do that. We know exactly what we need to send to them to make sure they can operate for however long they need to operate, right? There are guys who just do that. They know that, right? I'm not so sure that the Russians have spent a lot of time figuring that out. And again, I think it goes back to the way they do their training and their Zapad operate. They make everything available up front. They don't actually operate the supply chain that as if they were in a fight, right? They pre-stockpile all that crap. So I think if anything, you would see a little bit of a change there, maybe. And it would be like, so right now it's a standard cost to create a supply depot. Maybe it costs a little more for them. Right. Or a little more for their MSU or whatever. Right. The other side of that is I've been thinking about precision guided munitions. So that what's interesting is the original Crisis Korea in 1995 had a limited supply of precision guided munitions because it was, I don't know when it came out. I think it was actually 1995 when it came out, but we didn't have that many, right? I mean, you could probably count the stockpile with one guy doing the counting, right? Now, from a U.S. standpoint, we have tons of them. We'll come back to that. The Russians, it looks like they're either running out or conserving some of them, right? Because they're not using a lot of precision guided munitions, and when they are, they're resorting to older stuff. And they're also doing a lot of iron bombing. Okay. Oddly enough, I know during the Iraq War, we had to reposition some precision guided munitions because we were running out. So we have stuff in, we'll call it the Indo-Pac theater, the Euro theater, Central Africa, whatever, right? So we were running out. So they had to move the ones out of Indo-Pac into the whatever AFRICOM, whatever the Iraq theater was called at the time. I think it was under CENTCOM, but whatever. And then we would backfill with munitions, right? So we have more, but even we could run into issues if we didn't, if we weren't smart about it. I think they're running into issues. So I've been toying around with, do I need to limit the number of standoff strikes you can do with a marker? It's almost old school, going back to the original of, you just, anytime you want to do it, you got to do it. If you run out, you're down to iron bombs, baby. Sorry.
Right. Well, you're saying you're basing these 5 to 10 years out, right? Roughly.
Right. Roughly.
So maybe, and this is just me spitballing, this doesn't hurt them, but it actually helps them in a way because they learn from their mistakes here and correct for those 5 years from now.
Right. And that's what I'm going with right now, at least, is that, I mean, every nation state army worth of salt is going to learn from its mistakes, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right. And figure out what they did wrong and work to fix it. Now, I mean, I think they might have issues. This is for Tony. I'm moving on.
Nice. Well, you just said learning from their mistakes, and these are all 5 to 10 years in the future. So I'm leaving Marine armor in.
Yeah.
So the next commandant, Commandant.
Yep.
Right. Who decides to change the
we're going back to the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Right. Well, Marines are light infantry. They don't need armor. Come on.
That's the thing.
I don't know about y'all, but I prefer to hide behind the armor.
hide behind the
Well,
armor. What was that, Mitch?
You just need amphibious vehicles that don't sink.
Well, that too, and
Right.
Ospreys that don't fall out of the sky. But the other thing too is the one biggest problem is without all of that amphibious capability, armor, without the punch, and our artillery is down like 76% or something like that. Without that, this country does not have the 911 force. It's self-contained. It's a self-contained entity that can go anywhere and do everything.
Right. I mean, not for a long time. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you have
But
air,
they can
you got armor,
intervene
you
in
got
a
infantry,
banana
all that
republic.
stuff. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, you can use them anywhere. Like if something like this happened, you can throw them in there, get some troops in there, and they're self-contained. They've got air artillery, they've got armor, they got infantry, and then you can
that's
move
what
your
airborne's
army and
for,
air
buddy.
force assets.
Yeah. Well,
They don't have
82nd Airborne and 101st. It's all good. It's all good.
yeah. We're surrounded. We have them just where we want them.
Yeah, we don't need
Exactly.
Marines. Marines are overrated. Haven't you been reading the news? Come on.
Most dangerous weapon in the world is a Marine and his rifle. Period.
Without crayons.
What are my two favorite Marine jokes? You know what the Army calls Marines? Bulletproof shield.
Muscles are required. Intelligence not essential.
Bulletproof shield.
True. Just like we
the
call
Marines
it
always win
Uber.
first, right? So
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I think what the current commandant is responding to is the fact, in the reality, that the Marines are not Marines anymore. They're just another Army battalion, right? That's how they operated in Iraq. That's how they.
That's what he's turned it. That's what he's turned the Corps into.
Well, and that's what the Corps was turned into during the War on Terror. Right?
Well, yeah, because they were
they
still
war
Marines,
bodies.
but I mean, they were still Marines. But the thing is amphibious stuff wasn't really needed, obviously, because it's all landlocked stuff that we're going into. But at the same time, you still need to have amphibious.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not arguing that.
I'm
I'm just saying that's how they got used.
Sure.
Right. So they might as well have been Army battalions as much as Marines. I'm not sure, because they needed warm bodies, and they didn't want to conscript, and they couldn't activate all the National Guard units they wanted to do. So guess what? Send in the Marines. Right.
Yeah.
Which is not the right answer, but that's what happened.
Yeah. And then now, with everything going on with South China Sea and all that stuff being the big hot thing, it's like, well, that's where you really want that amphibious capability and that flexibility.
Right.
And instead, we're making the Marines rocket choppers.
Of course, this is where I point out the John C. McManus. Yeah.
Not seen that one. Not read that one.
No. Guess who did more amphibious operations in the Pacific? Army or Marines?
Army.
Army
did more amphibious operations in World War II.
It's like, wait, time out.
Let me say bye to everybody. Mitch, it was nice chatting with you, but I gotta hop off here. I made some promises to the missus, so I can't stick around all night.
Oh, I thought we upset you when they said the Army had more amphibious than the Marines.
No,
I gotta go.
No. I'm used to the Army being jealous of how awesome the Marines are. I get it. I understand.
True.
Yeah, we do. Every platoon comes with our own reporter to report how great we are. Actually, I had a college professor when I was in college. He was in the Army, and we used to give each other shit during class. And that was one of the things he always talked about. He's like, you guys and your little embedded reporters talking about how great the Marines are. I'm like, you're just upset. And then he gave me a C, so I apologized. All right. I'll holler at you guys later. Mitch, it was nice chatting to you, buddy. Sorry I can't stay the whole time.
That's all right. Good to see
you, brother. So,
but I mean, Mo, I think you're right. And so part of, that's, all fun and games.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a definite place for it, right? I mean, so the Pacific War was born out of need, not, as necessity, not necessarily anything else. But when you lose that capability, you lose. So there's power. It's like the guys who say, well, carriers are a thing of the past.
No.
Okay. You tell me how you're going to project power through the air 10,000 miles from here with no airbase.
Oh, we're going to make hypersonic planes.
Right.
Because hypersonic is the big word now.
We're going to use hypersonic missiles. Okay. Yeah. Those didn't work so well yet. Even the Russians presumably used one, right? But even so, again, open source intel, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And why would you use it on that target? And it didn't do anything.
It's 5 miles away from
you. Why in
would
the
you
hell are you saying you used one? Because it didn't work, right? So
Well,
know,
it's the same as the death of the tank, right? You know,
oh
that's
yeah,
what that
tanks are dead. We don't need them.
Yeah, look. Clearly, all these TikTok videos show. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Well, there are a lot of dead tanks. I'm just saying.
Well, that's which is
Well, I mean,
fine.
when you look at that one
But-
video that Kev and I were looking at, where you see, well, the initial video showed the NLAW or whatever it was. There were two guys in the trees. They shot that one tank. They killed it. It kind of just it started on fire and then it brewed up as it went down the road. It just kept going down the road. The original video showed that, and then it showed some APCs kind of just splitting off, the infantry dropping out and running across the road. Everybody ran, and they cut it there. They didn't show the other two tanks that went full front slope towards the threat and then just hammered the area where those Ukrainians were. And those guys didn't get out of there.
No.
So
or did that infantry dismount and
they should have dismounted and assaulted, as the tanks. Obviously you have to watch out for the tank fire, but there should have been immediate action drills done, and there was none of that, so
I mean, the tank's your base of fire, and then you maneuver around, right? I mean, so and that's why I said I think we have to take everything we're saying with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Ukrainians are winning the information war hands down. Absolutely. Hands down, right? I mean, you don't see a lot of the negative stuff. I mean, there's a couple, right? And you have to look really hard to find it. And Zelensky is just,
the Western media is propping him up, and they're propping up
the narrative for a former comedian. So he's a former comedian. He knows the value of a good soundbite.
Right. There's a lot of
he is playing it to the hilt.
Yeah.
But I also think he's actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. Sure.
So,
there's also a lot of censorship too, right? We're not getting the stories.
No.
And if you post anything, even anything I've posted about,
you can't be anti or
Russian misinformation,
Russian viewpoint. Oh, you're a terrible, what a bad person you are. Well, come on, man.
No, I mean, if you're trying to parrot their talking point that the U.S. started the war. The U.S. started the special military operation because you call it a war. Yeah, I'm not going to listen to what you're saying, right? So you can't even. The Russians are having some successes. There, no doubt. You can see it on the map, right? But the Ukrainians are winning the information war hands down and doing a great job. Frankly.
So, what is the next war?
Yes.
Topic.
Can I turn the camera around on this thing?
I don't know. Can you?
Do you know? Like, how do I?
What are you using?
Surface. I don't know if I can.
Oh, you'd have to actually turn the whole thing.
You can switch.
It's got a camera on the back side.
Yeah.
Trying to switch the camera. You have to go to camera settings, I think. Yeah, I think you have to.
Surface camera front. Watch this. Watch this. Are you ready?
Do it.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Oh, what are we doing looking at your closet?
Hey, nice underwear.
Okay. Tell us what this is.
Somebody will recognize that, I'm sure. Maybe if I turn it this way. No, that didn't help.
Okay. Hang on here.
No. So where's my finger? That line right there is known as the Strait of Hormuz. So that's the only clue you're getting. Now I gotta, Craig, the Gulf. Now I gotta figure out how to turn the camera back around because everybody wants to see my smiling face. Nobody wants to see that. So I'm playing. So Justin, bless his heart, Justin Martinez. I put a concept map together, and he put a light next war treatment on Iran for me. So it's basically running from the port of Chabahar, which is just west of the Pakistani border. I mean, just west. It's how many miles from the Pakistani border, up to the Strait of Hormuz, and then a little bit into the Persian Gulf. And so I was talking with this was a couple of years ago, I was talking with one of the 3-letter acronym guys about how they would really like a next war Iran treatment. And my first response was, we're not sending troops into Iran. I'm sorry. Right? I don't think it happens. So long story short, he spun some stories around, there are scenarios that might precipitate some of that. I mean, and he's not speaking in official capacity, clearly, right?
Right,
He's just saying they want to game some of that stuff out. So
Sure.
we talked through some of the reasons that might happen. So the Iranians mine the strait, and now all of a sudden oil stops flowing.
Mm.
Well, that's a big deal,
Mhm.
right? And so the question is is there a game there? So I mean, who did
Light Division. Joe
Light
Pelkowski.
Division?
Light,
Was
yeah.
that, was that 3W?
3W.
Was
Yeah,
that,
3W.
yeah,
Joe
so 3W
Yeah.
did that. I think Command did didn't they do a magazine game on that?
Yeah, that may have.
Maybe that was Libya.
Light Division.
I
was
think
a
they did
lot.
one. I thought they did one on Iran, but maybe not. And obviously there's Gulf Strike and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So so basically that's what it is I'm trying to figure out, is there really a game there that isn't just, yeah, the US stands out to sea and sends airstrikes in and it's over, right? So I'm trying to think, well, we want to capture the oil refineries and tanker ports or terminals or whatever intact. So let's make rules that kind of force you to land and do stuff, right? It's probably stretching plausibility a little bit, but I could see that. I mean, if they close the straits, somebody would have to do something,
Right.
right now. Whether that would involve ground troops or not, I don't know. Right? Maybe, because if they just mine the straits and say, screw you, then you're going to have to go, you're going to have to land boots on the ground. You're going to have to do something about it, especially because one of the things I'm doing is, so there are 20 hidden SSM markers, naval SSM markers on the map. And the Allies have to find and eliminate all 20. Now, half of them are dummies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can use SOF, you can use electronic recon, you can land ground troops to find it and destroy it. But you can't do anything unless you get rid of all of them, because they're deadly and they're going to shoot any ship you send them especially in the Persian Gulf. So one of the rules changes that we made in Next War Poland is that the Baltics, it was too tempting to send a carrier into the Baltics. And there are questions as to whether a carrier could actually make it through the bridges and everything. But assume the bridges got destroyed, the carrier sailed through, whatever. They were too survivable. And the Baltics is a very small place, right? Nobody in their right mind would send a carrier in there. But I hate putting straitjacket rules in there. If you want to send a carrier in there, great. However, note that there's a -2 on every strike against a naval unit in the Baltic Sea. Yep. That carrier is going to the bottom, baby. Sorry. Right? So don't do that. So kind of same thing here. In the Gulf of Oman, not so much. But in the Persian Gulf, it's the same thing. It's a very tight, very narrow. Yeah, we'll sail one in there in peacetime because nobody's shooting at us, right? But as soon as tensions rise, you can watch them. They beat feet for the open sea. Right?
Yeah, sitting duck.
Right, because they do not want to be caught in there.
Joel Toppen nuked.
Yes,
nuked the carrier in the Baltic Sea in Next War Poland. That was awesome. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So, that's what nukes are for.
Exactly. That was awesome. Took out a fleet group.
Just got to get, what was it? Was it Dionne Warwick that sang that song? That's what friends are for. That's what nukes are for.
Right. I mean, that was the funny thing. And I've said it before on other things. I probably, when I was talking to you, Kev, when I went to the Marine War College and they wanted to play Next War Poland and whatever in the combined game, I swear to God, it must be something with Marines, Mo. When can we fire nukes? Can we fire nukes now? I want to fire nukes.
Oh, yeah. Like, maximum devastation.
God. It's like their first response to everything. I want to fire nukes. Okay.
Here's what happens when you fire nukes. I think there's a fascination with him. I guess Ty Bomba must be secretly a Marine because he loves nukes too.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, so
in a game, I think everybody wants to try it and see what it's like in a game, what the effects are, because it's safe and, that should be something that you don't use unless you need to. And then when you need to, when you say, I need to take out this carrier, I need to take out this city or this bridge or whatever, then you drop them.
Third World War that just released, go big or go home. Nukes, turn 1. Let's do that.
Well, yeah. And so if I fire a nuke at a naval task force in the sea zone, I'm nuking a bunch of dudes, right? However, there's not all that much fallout,
right?
Because the sea absorbs a lot of that. right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I nuked a city with a bunch of civilians. I nuked a military target, killed military personnel, and there's very little fallout, and it's not hurting. I mean, other than obviously you're totally
get bonus
devastating the
VPs.
seabed and whatever, right?
You should get bonus VPs
But
for that.
right. So is it quote as bad? I don't know. Right.
I mean, I have no problem using them in the game for the right reasons. I just wouldn't just throw them around for the hell. I mean, I probably would, because I would just run right up the middle, as Kev knows. I would just run it right up the middle, drop a nuke behind you, so that way you'd have to go through.
That's the fun part, right? So you know, a lot of the next war into Pakistan, because there's nukes in that game. Right? There's a lot of people I've seen do that, is they do it because they're already on those short supply chains. You can nuke the main supply routes, which then makes it even harder.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good use of a tactical weapon, you know, a nuclear weapon right there.
Right. But that's why the built-in mechanism is, you know, the more nukes you use, the more likely you are to end the world. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Which is that's the risk in the game, just like it would be in real world, except it's actually stakes are way higher in the real world, obviously, you know, than losing a game and resetting.
Right. I mean, you know, a couple of cardboard counters came off, no big deal, but
yeah. Max firepower.
Exactly.
So how far along are you in development of that game?
Next War Iran, pretty far actually. I mean, I've got a pretty solid rule set, I think.
That is very true, Mike.
Yeah. With multiple publishers.
Same game.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Apparently Randy has an opponent on here. Pretty far along. I've got a good rule. I mean, you know, it's solid in the sense that it's complete.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still probably some tweaks to be made. We started pushing counters around. So every Wednesday, my friends Chris and Johan come over. We play. We just started pushing counters around. Like we got through the air superiority phase. So, that's the funny thing too, right? As the Iranians, you're going to have F-14As. Because remember, we sold them. Yeah. So I mean, they're shitty planes, right? That's his point.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
that'll be a force mismatch. That'll be cool to see.
But it'll be fun just to see the counter, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
because we retired them, obviously, but they've been cannibalizing them and keeping them flying because it's still one of the better airframes that they have, which is a testament to that plane. But everybody likes Top Gun.
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to have a Maverick counter in there somewhere.
God no, I was inverted.
Yeah, exactly. I was involved in, you know, spreading international relations or whatever the hell the line was.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was a good movie, right?
Oh, yeah, it's fun. And the new one looks really great. Just for the flight scenes alone, looks fantastic.
Right. It does. Although in the back of my mind, I'm like, isn't mandatory retirement in there somewhere?
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah. Well, he's been in the Air Force 400 years or something.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think you would be flying.
Well, I did like the one thing that they did in the new trailer, that the reason why he got brought in is he was recommended by Admiral Kazansky, and you see Iceman's picture up on the wall. So it was a nice way of adding in Val Kilmer to the movie, you know, given his current health situation. It was kind of neat to have him in there as a little nod to the original movie.
Oh, that's cool. My fear is that movie is just going to be a rehash of all the scenes of the original one.
It will be.
Oh, of course.
Well,
have you seen any Tom Cruise movie?
Why can't we do a sequel that actually has some new content? Right? Isn't that what the sequel's supposed to be?
Right. Well, that was the running joke a long time. So there was Top Gun, and then there were Days of Thunder, which is Top Gun with race cars.
Yep.
Right, and then whatever movie came after that was Top Gun with, you know, whatever it was he was.
Oh, really? No, I never saw that.
It was formula. I mean, it's Hollywood, right? They can't come up with an original story to save.
You know, I watched 2048, the Blade Runner 2048.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually I had a couple of cocktails, so it was really good.
I've heard it's good. I have yet to watch it.
Yeah, Harrison Ford surprised the hell out of me. He actually acted. You know, there were real expressions. You know, besides that kind of that pain, that kind of look he does, right? He had a whole range of things going on. It was excellent.
Well, he's much older now.
Yeah. But
I just started Black Lotus, which is that animated Blade Runner thing. It's interesting. I mean, it took him 2 episodes to start murdering people, but whatever.
Well, he also is playing opposite. What's his name? Ryan, whatever.
Gosling.
Gosling. Yeah.
Ryan Gosling.
The guy with one facial expression.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, he looks like he's taking a dump or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's just like,
I mean,
all the time.
I actually thought he did pretty. Not Ryan Gosling, obviously. Harrison Ford did pretty good in the first movie.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, he was playing the stoic cop.
Yes.
Right? So he didn't have to do a whole lot, but
Yeah.
he played it well.
Well, and Gosling plays the robot, so it kind of works that he doesn't have a lot of emotions.
Spoiler alert.
No,
No,
you know that.
They have
The very
feelings.
first scene, they call him a skin job. So
They have feelings, Kev.
No, there's no feelings.
Mm.
Well, kind of.
Hey, Roy had tears.
Yeah.
That was the best. So, from my understanding, that whole scene where he's, crying on the top was totally ad-libbed.
He had lived that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he
I mean,
really?
which just Rutger Hauer is fantastic.
Yeah. And he was that whole thing. I've seen things, ships fighting off
attack
the
ships on fire over
the Orion Belt or whatever, the shoulder of Orion or whatever, that whole thing. That was really cool. I was like that's
Tears
such
in
a
the
cool-
Rain, right?
Yeah.
So good.
It's such a great sequence right there with that.
Mhm.
It was just really well done. Time to Die. Yeah. That was good. And of course, Blood of Heroes too. Another one of my favorites with Rutger Hauer.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
They play they're juggers. They play that game where they got to take a skull and put it on a stake.
Oh,
It's got him and Joan Chen in it, and Vincent D'Onofrio's in it, I think.
Nice.
And then Nighthawks is the other one I like.
Oh,
with
yeah.
him and Stallone. That was really great.
He's a solid actor.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So it was good stuff. But now that's cool. And then of course now, would you in the future entertain doing any type of treatment on the Ukraine situation in the future after everything has been said and done and analysis has been performed and all? Is this something that you would look at, being that it's not near future, it's actually near future the other way?
Right. It's like, I mean, you have to call it Last War, right? At that point.
Exactly. But not as a next war or last war game,
Right.
just as a separate game altogether.
I don't know the answer.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say no. I think I would. So the problem is something like Next War is fun in the sense that nobody really knows what's going to happen, right?
Right.
As opposed to something like Ukraine, which is a little too near, a little too raw, maybe to figure out. But beyond that we just don't know the details yet, right?
Sure.
I mean, 6 weeks is too soon. I mean, we're still learning stuff about.
Oh, I'm talking like in maybe 5-8 years
yeah.
from in the future, not. Like
I mean, if there's
year or
enough
something.
information, I guess maybe. I think the problem would be what would you do it on? And so from a Next War standpoint, it couldn't be that game, right? Because it's too big, and I've talked about that online before. To cover the whole. Well, to cover the span of operations that the Russians are operating in is probably 4 maps, maybe 5, right? So now you're talking a huge footprint. All of Ukraine is like 7 or 8 maps.
Yeah.
Which is a totally interesting question of they're almost completely ignoring Eastern Ukraine.
Yeah.
Which if you're me, or if I'm them, and I want to stop Ukraine, I'm cutting the flow of supplies.
Yeah.
I'm driving down from there to cut off the supply from NATO, right?
But if you do that, what is the response?
Well, I didn't enter NATO. I just stopped the flow of supplies, right? I cut the roads.
You cut the roads, yeah. But if you take
I didn't go to NATO. I'm still in Ukraine, right? So, and I don't know if maybe they just don't have enough firepower to do it, which could be, right? I mean, they obviously bogged down everywhere else. Or it could be like you're saying, Mo, it could be we don't even want to get too close.
Yeah.
Right? For all their bluster, they know they are outgunned. Right. And outnumbered. And that they can't, for all their, we can destroy everybody. Yeah. They're not that stupid, right? They know they would have to resort to nukes at that point. They just, they so like selling next we're pulling short there, but they just, I don't think, unless the conditions were perfect, like NATO was fractured. So 4 years ago, NATO was fractured. I don't know that they would have necessarily responded as quickly or as united as they did in the light of Ukraine, right? So I think that's been a sea change. That could very well be an interesting modification. So right now you have to roll for Article 5. So the whole Article 5 die roll modifier in next war Poland is not that NATO's not going to respond. It's the speed of response, right? 5 years ago, whenever next war Poland got back, that was probably about right. They were going to be slow. Right now,
yeah, they're itching for it.
They'd be like, boom, we're here.
Yeah.
Right. So, if it's not an out of the barracks attack, I don't know that the Russians would have any.
And plus, you've got the German army rearming, like actually building a proper,
right.
More
so that their shit actually works.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there was a point there where 2/3 of their naval assets couldn't even sail. Right. Half of their air force couldn't fly.
90 tanks.
So the maintenance and logistic problems that the Russians are having today, that was Germany. It still is Germany. Right now, they're spending ungodly billions of dollars to apparently fix that. Right. But I mean, honestly, the best thing to come out of Ukraine, this sounds really bad. The best thing that comes out of Ukraine is that the Poles in Sweden and NATO have for the longest time, we don't want to join NATO. We're just fine being neutral. Now it's like,
on second thought,
63%. I think in both nations it was in the low to high 60s. Or we need to join NATO. Even the current government or the current, I mean, I don't understand how European politics work. The current ruling coalition, the leading coalition partner, however that works in their parliament in Sweden, whatever, has forever been against NATO. That's like their biggest thing. They're changing their tune because, there's elections are coming up, and all the people are like, we want to join NATO. I wonder why the political party is changing its tune, but whatever. But so even they're changing their tune. So I don't see it as too far fetched as seeing Finland and Sweden joining NATO, right? Or at least getting even really cozy. I mean, they're already cozy. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
but actually joining NATO, which of course is different.
I was going to say, what about doing a bigger version of Next War? Like more of a strategic style, where you're kind of doing a next World War. Have you ever thought of something like that?
I haven't. I mean, you're talking like what scale are you talking?
Like
just
divisional or operational?
Global?
I guess it would be like division army. It would be global, and it would be more strategic than it would be operational.
It's bigger.
Yes, much bigger. So it would be current situation blows up in a or something like it blows up into a whole conflict.
I mean, that would I mean, that would kind of be like the Russia-China block. Right.
Yep.
Of course, people are lumping India into that block, which I don't know that India is too happy about that, but whatever.
Well, they're the ones who are.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to
China.
They're trying to straddle the fence, and that never works out well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But that'd be interesting. I mean, I hate to say it, that's probably better as a CDG, because the problem there is, and I've been clear on a lot of things, is, I don't worry about the politics of things, of how stuff, little green man, blah, blah, blah. All that's done. It's been done. This is the shooting part.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what I love.
It's already past that.
Yeah.
Right. None of the politicking and stuff. So I think something like that, you'd have to include politics in there, because you're going to lead up to it for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And try to get some of the non-aligned, quote unquote, non-aligned nations to swing on your side. So
it's kind of like Third World War, right? Kind of like the pre-war.
Right. What's the Days of Decision or whatever?
Yeah, that'd be another one.
World War II.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Twilight 2000. There you go.
Yeah. Great.
Well, Twilight 2000 is after that game.
Yeah.
After
the nuclear exchange. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I played the second edition Twilight 2000. I do have the new one over there.
Oh, you got the new one too? Nice. Yeah. We'll have to bring him into the band. The game we've been talking about, we just have to find time to do it.
Right.
We're gonna get that, so we'll have to bring Mitch in on that too. So
do it.
Can join the fire team.
The fire team. Yeah, scary.
Exactly.
I want to be an Aussie SA. No.
Nice.
Yeah. No,
I reckon Channel.
You're not going to sit there and pretend to be Australian the entire time. That'd be terrible.
Wait till you hear my Australian accent.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm sure.
No, you just heard it.
No.
Good day, mate.
Exactly.
Stop it.
Right.
This is racist.
That's not a knife.
That's not a knife.
It's a knife. That would be fun. But so we're gonna wrap it up here. Anybody have any last questions in the chat? Post them up here. Kev, you have any last things here?
Why do you always throw me under the bus with the last?
Well,
one
I'm giving
thing?
you the chance to. Well, Nate's not here, so you gotta take.
Because you haven't finished your beer yet.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh. There you go.
So, you have any last questions, comments?
No. I'm excited about the new title. I think it'll be cool. I'm more excited though for the moment for the next war, Poland, and Supplement 3. I think because that's going to have a map in it as well, isn't it?
So yeah, Supplement 3 will have the extension map.
Extension map. Yeah.
So it basically completes so the current operational map in Next War Poland, first edition, only has part of Kaliningrad.
Yep.
Funny, Braxton, but true. The extension map, so all of Kaliningrad and a lot of Lithuania is actually a hex map. So you're going to have to fight over Lithuania. We added the rail line, which is very important from a Russian standpoint. Is they want that rail line that connects Russia to Kaliningrad, right? The enclave of Kaliningrad. So there are rules around opening that rail line and keeping it open. You get VP for that. So that will come in the supplement, and it'll just lay over the top of the 1E map, right? Yep. You'll get a new Russian order of battle for the land units, for the ground units, and then some additional air units to go along with your current air units. So there's instructions on all, what to throw out, what to keep.
Yep.
The poles are changing a little bit. There's some NATO reinforcements, some stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about it because it'd basically be a whole new game,
Oh
particularly.
yeah.
So yeah, I've seen Ralph. Ralph seems to be excited about it.
Oh yeah. Well, so because you have to fight over the hex map version of Lithuania, it changes the complexion of how the Russians approach the battle.
Right.
And so, I've talked about the Suwalki Gap before, and you've seen it in the news before. So that becomes a lot more important because that's the land bridge, right? So now it's even more important because you come in from Lithuania across the hex map, and that's the connection, right?
Cool.
To Lithuania.
Very cool. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm obviously excited about Taiwan coming at some point too. So
that'll be next.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Very good. Good stuff.
And for those who have not played any of the next war games, I know India-Pakistan is always a preferred starting point. It's always a recommended starting point. And you and I have talked about that. Someone had asked me, is India-Pakistan going to be reprinted? And there's currently no plans for that, right? So it's something, if everybody here wants it, email GMT and let them know.
There are no official plans. They would put it on the list, right? I'm sure if I said, hey, Gene, put that on the list, he would. The problem is right now, Poland second edition is on the list, and then Taiwan second edition is on the list, right? So, but the more people who email them, they'll just put it on the list. And so other than, like I mentioned a couple of things, like the Indians buying the S-300 and some more Su-30s, from what I understand, there's not a whole lot of changes that would happen. So it could almost be a straight reprint. So it might be pretty fast, right?
That could be cool.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Now, as far as, aside from that being the entry point, what would you recommend as far as someone just starting out with India-Pakistan or any of the games, but we'll just use India-Pakistan, as far as getting their feet wet and getting comfortable in a system? What things would you recommend as, things to look for, things to do to get prepped to understand Next War series?
Well, so going back to the original conversation, assuming you have an understanding of times,
war games,
and all that stuff, and war games in general. I mean, the standard game is not that far from most other war games, right? I mean, all the air stuff's abstracted and whatever. It's move, fight, advance, do it again, that kind of stuff. So it's not. I don't think it's that hard. I would start with one of the standard scenarios, play it through to the end, and then immediately switch to the advanced game.
Yeah.
Right. There are a lot of videos out there. I mean, I put out some really crappy ones that you can watch. Kev's done some videos. I know other people have done a lot of videos on it. There's a Next War Discord for answering questions. BGG and Console World, of course, always. But
where does everybody get to the Next War Discord?
That's a good question. I mean, you can ask me.
Okay.
But yeah,
I can say, is there a public link or something like that you could throw in the chat?
There probably is somewhere.
Yeah, and the other thing you could do if it's not India, Pakistan, is you could do Vietnam, right? Because you
Mhm.
can do
Yes.
you could do the land battles for Vietnam, and that plays really well.
Yeah.
And particularly with the standard, you could use the standard rules there, and that'd be fine. And then the advanced game is advanced, and it's very
Yeah.
thought-provoking, but excellent fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
do I
because that's
put-
one of the things I've talked to people about, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm a little intimidated from what I hear about it." And I'm like, "Well, the standard game, you could play the standard game and be very happy,
Yeah.
and not even worry about the advanced game because there are several, basic game scenarios.
Yep.
But obviously, you're going to want to switch to the advanced game because it's going
Right.
to crank things up."
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Well, it's just, I mean, frankly, well, obviously biased, but it's more fun, right?
Yeah,
sure.
The standard game's okay, and
Yeah.
it'll get you into the system. It'll teach you how to do combat and movement, and all that good stuff. But really, we've talked about that many times. There's just something about taking taking an F-35 counter
Mhm.
and moving it across the map, right? Or taking an
Yeah.
SOF marker and plopping it down and saying, "I'm going to raid that HQ."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
just
Yeah.
more visceral and it just feels good, right? Even if you
If you
fail,
want
you're
cruise
like,
missiles,
right.
if you want
Yeah.
cruise missiles and
missiles,
soft
right, exactly.
and air and
Right.
the naval stuff, now that I'm starting to get it a little more,
Yeah.
is also a lot of fun. Yeah.
Right. The problem becomes is that once you get to the advanced game, there's a lot of levers and to pull and buttons to put, and you have a lot of competing priorities and how to allocate resources, which is good from a decision standpoint, gaming standpoint,
Right.
But it becomes somewhat overwhelming if you're not used to that.
That's true.
That's really the biggest problem, right?
Well, the basic game is kind of like, I'm just going to dumb it down and say there it's like 2 layers. Then when you get to the advanced game, it's multi-layers. You're adding numerous, not numerous, but you're adding several more. And like you said, then you have to prioritize, and it's a lot more of a challenge, which is the fun of it.
Right. Well, and it's what the practitioners call multi-domain warfare.
Yes.
Right? You have to know all the range of the gamut of how things work, right? And what's the best tool to use to accomplish your goal.
Exactly.
True. And Jester says that you need to get a T-shirt that says "I survived Whiskey Charlie."
He's referencing the T-shirt I made for the War Room show.
Nice. Is Next War Taiwan still on playtest? No, that's actually out.
Yeah.
Sold out, actually.
Yeah, the first edition was out, sold out, and then 2E will be coming at some point.
Cool.
I'm hoping 2023, but we'll see.
Well, that'll be good.
Yeah.
And
the more,
Kev,
the more G&Ts you buy Ralph at Donkey Kong, the better the chances are.
How do those two things even come together? And
nice.
I've seen what happens when he has.
So there's a fine line.
Oh yeah.
I'll send you a bottle of Bombay Sapphire. You can take that up there.
There you
go. Dear. Yeah.
So I put a link to the private chat because apparently I can't comment in the public
okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can.
Oh yeah, you'll need to do it too.
I'm not cool enough.
Yeah, only the host can post in the comments, unless it's actually on the YouTube.
Oh yeah, I'm just in the other things.
There you go. Yeah, you'd have to do it on the YouTube itself. But that is the Next War Discord. For those who are interested, you can get onto the Discord channel for the Next War. That way you can get your questions answered. You can find out a whole bunch more information. I guess there are also people that are looking for vassal opponents, things like that in there.
Yeah, there's actually been a long running play by email game. They're using one of the channels for that in there, and I mean, God bless them. It's not
something I would do.
Not something I would do with Next War, but hey, they're making it work, which is great, right?
Wow. Yeah, that's so interactive. That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. But
cool.
That's going to be it for tonight, guys. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate Mitch for showing up tonight and being our special guest and giving us all this great information about Next War, and also talking about what's going on currently with Ukraine and Russia, and not the Soviet Union, Kev.
Yeah.
But
important safety tip: don't call them the Soviet Union.
Although that is what Putin would like.
Yeah. That is true. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, like I said, and we will see you all on